How did the idea for a Pet Sounds branded Surfy Bear Compact first come about?
Well, we were contacted at NAM 2025 by the Beach Boys marketing management to make something together because they really liked what we were doing within the surf music business. As you know, everybody in the surf music scene know what a Surfy Bear unit is. And we really like the idea, of course. We are big fans of the Beach Boys, like many of you, I guess. And we found the idea quite thrilling. So apparently, they told us that they've been looking at us since 2024. Then they approached us finally at NAM 2025, and we managed throughout the year to through 2025 to find an agreement in which we were manufacturing product together. And under my suggestion, the best idea was to do our core business product, which is a reverb unit. And considering that many people will buy it to play with it, some other will just buy it as a collector item, I thought that the best idea, even from a configuration and styling point of view, doing a Surfy Bear Compact was a perfect idea. And actually, I can show you how it's going to look like this little nice thing here. So it's a regular Surfy Bear Compact, but rich style with the artwork, with the graphics of Pet Sound. So they came to look for us, and we said, yes, let's do it. It's the Beach Boys.
Why did it feel like a natural fit for Surfy Industries to work with the Beach Boys?
Uh, the Beach Boys, they've always been associated with surfing, with surf music, although, as we know, some picky ones could say that the Beach Boys were never a surf band, per se. But definitely,
Right.
we have to say, surf music was instrumental for all of us. But at the same time, it's true that the Beach Boys let everybody know about what was going on in California and helped defining the Californian myth, the California legend, the sound of California with their songs. Although in the beginning they did something that was pretty close to surf music because Carl was a good musician and definitely they did something, even using the Fender tank, of course, especially in Surfing Safari, Surfing USA. That was what the kids liked at the time. So the Beach Boys, of course, were much more of a commercial machine that what really instrumental surf music was. But still, I think that the feat was still very good. In the mind of everybody, the Beach Boys are the most associated with surfing California and the early '60s.
Yeah. So, to this day, actually, I have these surf music compilations and there's Beach Boys tracks on them with no vocals that are just surf rock songs, right? So they're still embedded in that community, even besides the hits. But, you know, um, did you have any opportunity to speak with any members of the Beach Boys for this project?
No, no, there was no connection directly with members of the Beach Boys because this, of course, as you can understand, is more of a marketing maneuver because there is the 60th anniversary of Pet Sound, and they've been putting together ideas of products of collaboration to uh, to do something that has to be their purpose merchandise products. Okay, merchandising for the Pet Sound. But as far as I know, some of the members of the couple of the members of the Beach Boys band are interested in using the Surfy Bear. So maybe in the future, once the product is launched, there will be the opportunity to see some of the members of the Beach Boys band, the current Beach Boys lineup, to actually use a Surfy Bear. It happened in the past, not just with the Beach Boys, it happened in the past with the Ventures. So maybe it will happen with the Beach Boys too. But I can tell you that uh, the management of the band, of the Beach Boys, is very excited about this project. And we are excited too, of course. So we're looking forward to have it out on the street.
Yeah. Well, as you've told me before, you've been on stage with the Beach Boys. in the past, right? A little
Oh
guest
yeah.
appearance?
Yeah, there was a guest appearance in Biarritz in France in 2001. So I managed to get in for Barbaran, singing Barbaran next to Mike Love and Bruce Johnson. Of course, we're talking about that Beach Boys band, and it was thrilling. Of course, it was probably 5 or 6 thousand people in front of us on the beach, and during the Biarritz Surf Festival, which was a big event over
Mm,
there in France. You know, Biarritz has always been one of the major surfing locations since the 60s. If you remember, Bruce Johnston in Surfing Around the World album 1963 did a song called Biarritz in that album, uh, which is by the way, in my opinion, the coolest song of that record. Anyway, yes, but nothing that I can say that has never been in a relationship with them, of course.
sure, but a thrilling moment nonetheless.
Oh
So
yeah.
So what was the process like on the collaboration? I'm interested to know like why you chose the compact, the Surfy Bear Compact. And then also, did you come up with the graphics and pitch it to them? Obviously, they're based on the album, but was there some back and forth? Maybe just tell me about how the whole venture went.
So as I mentioned, once they proposed us to make a product, and as I was telling you before, it's good to do a product that is our core business, so a reverb unit. Coming with the idea of the compact was natural for me because, as you know, our classic and metal units are very big. So if you have to use that, uh, uh, it takes a lot of space in your pedal board and is a big unit for many guitar players. Of course, the long reverb pan inside sounds a bit fuller, but the compact still remains probably our top seller because of the fact that it's pedal board friendly. So it was natural for me to use that. Also because the compact is a metal chassis, so obviously the customization of the product is a bit easier. Same would have been for the metal. With the classic, would have been a mess because the classic is covered with Tolex. So I asked how and what we wanted to do with that. So of course they supplied the official and authorized uh, graphic elements to be used with the product, and we had a variety of images to use. But we decided to go with the simplicity, keeping it just a couple of colors, and obviously bringing back the classic idea of the the Beach Boys Pet Sounds album, of course, using the Pet Sounds logo and the same green color. So keeping it pretty easy, pretty simple, with a big Beach Boys text in front. So this was one of the graphic elements that they provided us, and I think it worked pretty well in the old time. So I like it a lot.
So, how do you think the Spring Reverb connects like the Beach Boys and Surfy Industries and that California sound? It's something that's visceral that you can feel and that you can hear, but it's also part of the culture, isn't it?
It is because the Fender 6G15, which originated this kind of reverb sound for guitar, applied at a certain stage, so before the gain stage of the amplifier, really defined at some point the sound of surf music, defined surf music. Obviously, as Dick Dale said in the beginning, surf music is not made by the reverb. The reverb is a cool toy. Uh, but at the same time, we have to admit that apart from the sound of Dick Dale, the reverb tank, the reverb sound is what defines surf music. So, as said, the Beach Boys were never a real surf band, of course. So their use of the reverb unit has been very limited in the early record. We can certainly remember some of their songs from Surfing USA, for example, Surf Jam is a great song. And in that time, Carl definitely approached the surf sound, which was the kids liked at the time,
Mhm.
uh, to record something in the surf way. So
Mhm.
Showman amplifiers, this kind of thing, or bandmaster. I don't know what they were using at the beginning. I think it's Showman, with the reverb unit. So the fit with the Beach Boys is probably just a little bit in the first two records when they arrived and imposed themselves in a scene that was dominated in Southern California by surf music. So by Dick Dale first, but also all the other bands that came out right after. The Bel Airs, not too much with reverb, but definitely Eddie and the Showman, and then the Challengers, and then the Shantays, and so on, so on, so on. The Astronauts coming from Colorado uh, based their sound with RCA, especially on the first two record, on these kind of instruments on the river. But the Beach Boys, probably in the beginning only, just uh, tried to use the experiment with this. Other than that, obviously, I don't think there is a spring reverb on Pet Sounds. Obviously, this is a marketing product in honor of a great record like Pet Sounds and the Beach Boys, but we cannot say that there is a technical link between the Beach Boys and the reverb unit. But we know that the reverb unit is strictly linked with the California sound of the surf music of the early 60s. So
Mhm.
eh, it's the love connection over there, I would say. You know?
Right. I mean, why do you think Pet Sounds remains so important for the community? Because I mean, I would wager most surf music fans are just naturally Beach Boys fans, but Pet Sounds has a much larger reach. It's one of the most famous albums of all times. Why do you personally think it's so enduring?
Well, first of all, I can just say that, first of all, that is my personal opinion. Um, since I'm a big lover of the Beach Boys music, I might not be the biggest expert on that, but Pet Sound is a very special record. I think that the thing that I like the most is the songwriting, the songs, of course. I love all the album from the beginning to the end. Is a trip, is a voyage in the mind of Brian Wilson. Um, and it was psychedelic for some aspects. Uh, it was crazy for other aspects. It just did something that nobody did before, putting animals, strange sounds, experimental music at the time. So it was a very innovative kind of thing in a moment in which music was a very big business everywhere.
Mhm.
And like for today, the purpose of all the big majors were selling. And Brian Wilson was going in a very unusual direction, producing music that was less and less sellable to larger audiences. You see what happened later on with Smile. But Pet Sound stays in that middle where you know that the Beach Boys just left their beginnings connected to surf and simplicity, which I like a lot. It's not that I don't like the early period of the Beach Boys, but Pet Sound just was a special thing. I
Mhm.
think is really incredible, and the way it has been received worldwide has been obviously amazing. I think what Paul McCartney said about that, was
Mhm.
big inspiration for everybody. And at that time, the experimentation was a big thing in music. Everybody was trying to find out what else we can do with the music.
Mhm.
After rock and roll, after the British invasion, after the concept of the simplicity. Now we have the instruments. Now we have the the mechanical thing. Now we have things that we didn't have in the 50s. But what else we can do with all this?
Mhm.
And the experimentation was just amazing. I think Pet Sounds put together the right amount of experimental things and good songwriting. So it's the record that you can see well in any direction. It's a pleasure to listen to it any way you want to see it. Either you just like the songs and you're here and you're there, you listen to it to listen to good music, but also if you have a psychedelic mind and you trying to look at the experimental aspect of it, there's a lot of it. There's a lot of everything into this record. So this
Mhm.
is personally why I like this record. It's really a magic thing in my opinion. And every song is a trip on its own. You know,
Mhm.
uh, you go to from Sloop B to Pet Sounds to crazy instrumentals, Caroline No, and all the things God only knows. You have everything inside there.
Mm.
So is I
Yeah.
think it's special for whoever is a big fan of the Beach Boys. Pet Sounds has a special place in their heart.
Yeah, for sure. It's often talked about as one of the records where the studio itself became an instrument, right? The studio wasn't just to capture the recordings, it was to create something new in and to use as something you could manipulate and, whether it's true or not, sort of inspired the Beatles to step it up for
Mhm.
Sergeant Pepper's and kind of launch that whole era. Do you have a favorite song on Pet Sounds?
Difficult to say because God only knows. Obviously, is the great thing, but there are songs that I really like Caroline No. Is it's
Mhm.
I don't know if it's my favorite, but it could be. It could be. Um, uh, I find that really incredible. I remember seeing the 50th anniversary concerts series of the Beach Boys where they reunite. And
Mhm.
one of the things that I liked the most in that show, I don't know if they did it in the whole tour, but the show that I saw was the one in Berlin, was like that. They took a break in the middle. And when they came back from the break, they didn't, not that all the band came back on stage. There was only David Marks with the band playing alone Pet Sounds on his Jaguar. I think that was a big, unexpected highlight of that show. you know.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I cannot tell that there's a favorite. My dad's favorite song was of the Beach Boys. At least the version of the Beach Boys was Lou John B.
Mhm.
So something that I remember nicely because it was my dad's favorite. But anyway, I like all the record.
That's good. I feel like wouldn't it be nice captures what it feels like to be 15 or 16 and have your first girlfriend just to a T, that feeling. But God only knows is transcendent, especially when the
Yeah, of
the
course.
vocals start looping. It's unbelievably gorgeous. So back to the Surfy Bear. Um so I'm gonna interject one thing because I'm a fan and a user of the Surfy Bear. The first time that I played through a Surfy Bear, um, the hair on the back of my neck stood up because I had heard amp reverb and then I had heard like digital tank reverb, but when I actually played through one, the sound became three-dimensional. I felt like I could step into the reverb, so it was a completely different experience, and I could never go back after that, right? I had to do analog. But you're one of the inventors, and from that perspective, what do you think that guitar players should know about the sound and the feel of the Surfy Bear? Let's say the compact in this instance, because we're talking about the Pet Sounds.
This is a very interesting question indeed, because apart from the compact or the metal or the classic or whatever other units, well, obviously we didn't invent anything new. We just taken inspiration from the Fender 6G15, as is well written even on our website. Now, this reverb uh, was applied to the guitar and was applied before the gain stage of the amplifier. So stage before the amplifier. I have to get into this technicality to properly answer to your question. Because a lot of people are continuing saying that why should I need the Surfy Bear when I have the most beautiful reverb on my amplifier? I have a deluxe, I have the twin reverb, talking about Fender, but you can talk about, and those amplifiers have the best reverb. It's the reverb, as someone call it. Well, I might disagree with that because then is the modern approach to the reverb, where the reverb is at the end of the stage, if we want to say. So it is applied after everything. But the way that reverb was used at the time and what differs from the music of today is that the reverb was before the amplifier. So as I was saying, the reverb effect impacts the amplifier. So the signal that goes in the amplifier is already a wet signal. When this happened, the gain stage of the amplifier, whether is a solid state amplifier or a tube amplifier, deal with that signal in a different way. So the amplifier, at some point, when you raise the volume, depending on how powerful your amplifier is, you reach a certain level of compression and distortion. On a tube amplifier, you have this maximum volume, maximum compression before distortion. This was Dale was calling the blossom point. After that, you only get distortion, but not more volume per se. So when you approach to that volume, where there's a limitation of the tubes of the gain stage, but there could be limitation of the speaker you're using, because maybe speakers like the JBL D130, the famous JBL D130F in surf music, is a very low rated power speaker. So you arrive to a speaker compression. When all these compressions and distortions and things happen with the amplifier, they impact and influence the sound, the wet sound that you have on your guitar that is already reverberated. This changes everything. When you reach, the more you approach to that blossom point, the more the reverb extends naturally. And things change dramatically so that the reverb is not just an effect, a room effect, a hall effect that you apply to a finished sound. It becomes an instrument on its own. You start talking to the reverb. I always bring this example. When you're a drummer, I play some drums. I've been drumming for some people in surf music for quite some time. Actually, I've been a drummer before a guitar player. When you play with the sticks, you learn to deal with the rebound of your stick on the drum skin. And this is a fundamental part of the drumming. You cannot be a drummer without dealing with the rebound, because the rebound give you feel, it give you speed, it give you a sound. You just don't play the drums like that. You just always, you use your finger, you use your wrist, you use various technique, but you use the rebound. We are not used in guitar. Many guitar players are not used to think the same way of the guitar, but this is what the springs do. The springs are your drum skin. You learn to deal with your pick, with your stick, the same way, and with your string, with the guitar strings, the same way the drumstick deals with the drum skin. So with the rebound. So you learn to respond to that. And at that point, this is where the magic happens. So this is why a reverb tank is not an effect, is an instrument on its own if you learn how to use it.
Mm,
And it dramatically changes the way you play. It influences the way you play guitar. You write songs based on the sound of the reverb unit. So
mm,
it's not just an effect that you put there and it's there. Oh, reverb on off. Let's put a whole reverb. Let's put a room. Let's put a church. Let's put whatever. It's not just the environment. That is
mhm,
the different kind of reverb. But this thing is an instrument. You
mm,
play with it exactly like you play with the strings. And every single element that you change in your guitar changes the way the reverb plays. So the size of the pick, so the gauge of the pick, the shape of the pick, but also the strings you use, round wound, flat wounds, the thickness of the strings or the gauge of the strings, the bridge that you have, the guitar that you have, the pickups, which pickup you use, the thickness of the wood, the density of the wood, whether it's whatever, any wood you might choose, different guitar, different neck, different cables. everything. And just to go against to say whoever says that, we read the comments everywhere, just to say that this is only a nerdy thing. This is not a nerdy thing. There are some things that can be considered nerdy thing. I completely agree with that. And I'm a nerd for guitar, and it's fine. But using this or using an onboard reverb, it is not a nerdy thing. There is a gigantic difference.
Mhm,
So before arriving to the gauge of the strings or the picks, so those can be nerdy thing to
mhm,
change tiny details, or use a tube, use a tongue sol, or use a Jan Phillips, or use this in a tube amplifier. Yes, those are nerdy things, but using the reverb before or after the gain stage is absolutely not the same thing.
mhm,
And if you have never tried a reverb unit, you cannot know that.
mhm,
You have tried, you have tried it. Everybody, it happens many times that people think, no, this is not true. But
mhm,
in some other occasion, most of the occasion, I have to say, when people plug in a reverb unit, people that have always been dealing with reverb um, all their life, all of a sudden they plug in a reverb unit and they say, "Oh my god!"
mhm,
Like now, it's like I've never used the reverb before in my
mhm,
life,
mhm,
because it's a different thing. It's a three-dimensional thing.
mhm,
The signal goes through springs. So is it the perfect sound in terms of perfection? No, it is not. Because even if with products like our Surfy Pan and Aquatronics, we're trying to make a production of these things more uniform, there are always tiny differences. So you take the imperfection of that, but that's the beauty
mhm,
that defines your own sound compared to the generic sound. So is it perfect compared to digital? No, it is not. But at the same time, a digital product cannot absolutely and entirely replicate what is happening in one of these things in an external, in an outdoor reverb unit,
mhm,
because of the imperfections. So it's exactly like if you take a Vox Continental organ. The Vox Continental organ has like five, four, I can't remember, little tiny pins that when you press the key of the organ, they touch and they make this electromechanic sound. Now, one of the pin can touch before the other. This thing can be messy, and then the organ is old. So anyway, you try to replicate that. That is a unique thing that is made by electromechanical parts. So
mhm,
it can be replicated up to a certain point, or like an Hammond organ. You can replicate it up to a certain point,
mhm,
but the imperfection of the electromechanical aspects of that sound
mhm,
cannot be replicated. So to make a spring reverb, you need the spring.
mhm,
Otherwise, you get an emulation of that, which can get close to it,
mhm,
but it's not quite the same thing. And that is what you feel when you when you plug in the first time a reverb unit, an outward reverb unit applied before the gain stage, rather than using a digital reverb, a digital spring reverb emulation, or something, or an onboard reverb, which even if it's springs, is different because it doesn't affect the sound the same way. So
mhm.
this is the overall of the whole things. Whether it's the compact, the classic, the metal, a Fender unit, a Premier reverberation unit, or any other outboard tank you find out there, it's different from using an onboard reverb.
Yeah, well, there's so much debate about analog versus digital in the guitar community, and frankly, it's been beaten to death. Right? It's not even an interesting subject anymore. But there's great digital reverbs that it's like they've taken a great photo of a tank reverb. Like a very high definition photo, but when you play one and a real spring reverb, an analog one, it's like you step inside of it. It's
Yeah.
reality versus viewing a photo, and just quite different, quite visceral, and something you could feel on your body. In my case, for the Pet Sounds version, how many units are going to be available, and are they shipping globally?
All right. We're shipping globally, of course, and many of our dealers. pre-order some of these units. So you will be able to find, hopefully, a few units left on our website and a few units through our dealers if they haven't already sold those. But I can tell you that uh, we have produced two batches right now. The first batch has been 150 units, the second batch 200 units. We're not sure if we will do another batch, but definitely we will not go over 500 pieces in total of this production. Remember that this product can be manufactured only within the year 2026. After that, it's over.
Okay.
So we already pre-sold most of it. So when I'm saying that at the launch of the product, we will have just a few units available, I'm not joking. I'm talking about we're going to have 10 available worldwide, 10, 15, something like that. So it's really, really, really little. So if you want one, if someone wants one, they better pre-order it because once it's gone, it's gone. We don't know, as I was saying in the beginning, I have no idea if people are going to use this or they're going to put it on their shelf and keep it there as Beach Boys fans. But everybody can do whatever they want with it. But I can tell you that the product is very nice and there are not many available. That's the point.
Okay. Can Beach Boys fans or guitar players expect any other Beach Boys collaborations or maybe other artists collaborations from Surfy in the future?
Um, yes, I cannot tell you much about this right now, but I can tell you that it's not over.
Okay.
So, there is something special also coming up. It will be presented at NAM 2027 together with our new latest product for Surfy. You know, every year at NAM in January, we have some new stuff coming up. But I can tell you that it's not over. More is coming, but not this. So if you're interested in the
Mhm.
pet sounds, there's the only chance to get any. This is the only pet sound thing we're doing. That's for sure.
Okay. All right. I want to ask you one last thing. So, I mean, Lorenzo, you're the CEO of Surfy Industries. We get that, right? Um, but personally, for Lorenzo, not included in Surfy Industries, what does it mean to you to be part of a project that has someone like the Beach Boys collaborating with you?
Well, since 1997 until around 2006, 2007, I've been singing in a Beach Boys band, in a Beach Boys cover band. They were called the Pipelines. We have done a lot of shows, probably close to 1,500 shows. And at the end of the 90s, we were doing a lot of shows per year. And at that time, there was nobody in Europe playing Beach Boys music. There was another band in UK, I remember, and I cannot recall of anybody else. But you know, in 1999, 2000, there was not much internet, so I'm not sure if there was someone else, but it was impossible for me to know in many ways. So then, as you know, I dedicated myself only to instrumental music, touring the world, not only working with Surf Industries. Um so obviously, the Beach Boys have a very, very, very special place in my heart, and I know in the heart of Ted Miller also, which is our uh, representative for USA, Canada, and Mexico, and the boss of Surf Industries USA,
No.
which is our company in the US dealing with the distribution and the marketing of surf industries in the country. And even for Ted, who has always been a big fan of the California sound of the early 60s, not just the surf part of it, instrumental part of it, but also everything that was vocal. So the Beach Boys side, but also Hot Rod, running the Daytonas, all those kind of things, together with his band, because he's also part of a very important surf band, one of the most important surf bands in the history of surf music. Um, for us, obviously, is extremely special. I really do hope that some of the guys of the bands of the Beach Boys will use these. And if this will happen, even just in one song, if they will play, I don't know, an early 60s Beach Boys song like Surfing USA and put in the song out of a reverb unit, a Surfy Bear reverb unit, it would be thrilling for us. So obviously, as I was telling you in the beginning, when the Beach Boys come to us and tell us, you want to do something with us? Well, we can only reply, yes, of course we do it. There's
Mhm.
no question about that. Why? Because it's the Beach Boys and we love you. We love your music. So we do it.
Got it. Well, thank you for your time, Lorenzo. It was so interesting to hear your thoughts behind the collaboration. And I guess for anyone that hears this, you better get out and order your Pet Sounds Surfy Bear before they're gone, right?
It is. Order it now. Not many left, actually. But if you can still get it, don't waste time and get it. Go surfindustries.com and you will get information there.
Sounds good. Thanks.
My pleasure.